brilliant. The proof is in the pudding, and the pudding in this case is a football. Boom! Eat my goal! The goalie has got football pie all over his shirt.
Welcome to this episode of the Down the Pub podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Abbott, and this is the review of the Pacific Halifax Wanderers game that happened last weekend. My partner in crime, Gary Griffiths, couldn't be bothered, I guess, to hang out and talk football this week. No, Gary's chasing the Yankee dollar, so he's got work, so it's just me on my own. So I hope you don't mind the ramblings of a crazy Irish person, and also I'll try and give some of my thoughts on the game here. So, Gary normally gives his hot takes. Mine will be more lukewarm observations. So, starting off, I guess this is our first Joao Morelli-less game. So the squad that Stephen Hart went with, we got to see Keane coming in for his first start to the season. Kept Cory Bent, Salter kind of felt like he was almost playing like as a co-striker. I don't think he played as much as a winger as what he's done in the last couple of games. So I think that suited him a little bit better. And then he went again with Lamotte, Rampersad, and Jeremy Gagnon-Lapierre in the middle. We saw Peter coming in because I think Restrepo had a bit of a knock from the game on against Ottawa, and then we also had Tabby Fernandez as our wing backs, and Christian Oxner started in goal. So overall, I thought the system that Stephen tends to put out suited this game more than the other two that we played. Pacific are a much better team than what Atletico Ottawa are, and York. That's not me being mean, it's just kind of a fact. So I think the system that we had was set up to contain Bustos and Aparicio, and I think for the most part we managed to do that. I think that our press was really good. They didn't really get a chance to break away, and I thought that they were kind of stuck with just kind of playing along the back and stuff like that. The issue is that we offer nothing going forward. Cory Bent scored probably one of the best goals in Wanderers history. It was a beautiful free kick, but that was pretty much it. That was all that we had, really. There wasn't really much that happened in the game. I thought, last season Akeem came in for a lot of stick, some of it from me too. He looks a lot fitter this year, but I just feel so bad for him with the fact that he doesn't receive any service whatsoever. It's, there was a couple of times when the only option that we had was to for Peter to play a long ball and kind of hit and hope route one stuff. Same as Santos, I think he had one or two where he kind of hit the ball long, and I don't think Akeem's ever going to score that way. I also felt that Rampersad, who normally has been playing as a 6 in the first two games, was almost playing like an 8. I talked to Gary a little bit about it, and Gary said he was playing as a 6, but I think he played a lot more advanced, and I think what that then created was a few little gaps between the central defenders and the midfield, and it's basically, I think, how the goal came around then for Pacific. Because you watch back on the goal, Jeremy is the one I think that goes to tackle Haynes, who's on the wing, and then when he plays the ball inside, Rampersad goes to attack that person. So they bypass him and pass it to Aparicio. So that's why Manny had so much space in behind there, because Rampersad and JGL had kind of pushed on to try and close down Pacific's attack. That left Lamotte, who tried to chase after, and so did Rampy after Manny Aparicio, and he laid the ball off to Diaz, and then Diaz crossed in. But if you also watch the goal back, Lamotte kind of stopped. Him and Rampersad just stopped and didn't track the run of Aparicio into the box. I think they felt like Manny had done whatever he was going to do, and they just kind of left at that and hoped nothing was going to happen. A lot of people, I'm sure Eric Santos could have done way better with with trying to close down Diaz. It wasn't a very good attempt, and Oxner was kind of a little bit all over the place, trying to come out and claim the ball. But I think the fault on that one definitely lies with the midfielders allowing the run in the first place from Manny and not tracking back. And it kind of gave him a pretty easy header. As I said, we came back into the game, scored scored a free kick, and for the most part after, it was kind of like a stalemate. I think that it was kind of just, it was almost like a chess game. But the one thing that kind of stands out to me is that, again, and I kind of mentioned this in the last episode, is that I really don't think this Lamotte, Rampersad, JGL trio works, and it reminds me so much of the Island games when we had Sissoko, Rampersad, and Louis Boyan Goyet. It just didn't work because the three players are so similar. They're just trying to occupy the same spaces, and I think maybe that's why Rampersad is kind of pushing on a little bit to try and make that almost play as an attacking midfielder. Like, and I think Jeremy played it a little bit forward too, because there was nobody kind of just sitting in behind the forwards to try and be that kind of transitional player between midfield and the forward line. And I just think that it was just such a stalemate, and we don't have enough on the wings. Watching the Valor game, how much I would love this team to have an Akio or a Bustos or an Abzi or Max Ferrari, somebody like that just a game changer that can take a player on and kind of create something. I just don't think that we have that type of player, and I think it's just kind of leaving us looking very kind of flat. Once again, I think Zach Fernandez had a very solid game. He is probably the standout player for the Wanderers so far this season. We kind of mentioned on the last episode with Gary that Tabby was kind of singled out a little bit by Atletico Ottawa, and I feel it was kind of the same in this one. And I don't think that's anything against him. I just think that he's obviously probably the least experienced of the back line, so they're obviously going to try and target him. But I think overall he had a really good game. Times he kind of got caught a little bit in possession and stuff like that, but I think we all have to be a little bit patient and just realise he's still a kid. He's it's first season as a pro, and you kind of just have to. And he's been pretty much thrown into the deep end because he was heralded as our fix for our left back situation, and it's a lot of pressure to put on somebody's shoulders and to say, hey, you're the solution to all these issues we've been having for the last season and a bit. So I think he's a pretty decent player. But looking back at the penalty, I know in the commentary, the commentator said that he followed through or some nonsense like that. So first of all, I want to say it wasn't a penalty. He clearly got the ball, but I just think that from the position the referee was in, maybe he didn't see the touch, or I really don't know, but it definitely wasn't a penalty. But once again, it's another one of those that you have to track it back to see. It's just a series of things that happen that create the situation in the first place, and I really think that Tabby was kind of left very isolated against probably the best player in the league. So same thing again, Jeremy tried to play a ball on the right wing down the line, got cut out, kind of made his way down the line, and then it got centred into Diaz again, and I think it was Mo Omar kind of sat off him, I think in that situation you want somebody to kind of come hammering in and take the ball and all that kind of stuff, and he kind of sat off him, and once again, he's in his first season as a pro too, and it's I don't think any of us will ever appreciate how difficult it is to make the step up from college football or semi-pro football to professional football. These guys are fit, and they're also clever, and I just think that giving somebody like Diaz that second in a space to make the pass out to Bustos kind of created a lot of this, and I kind of left Tabby isolated. For Tabby, one of the first things you're taught about when you play football is don't dive in, and especially when you're playing a player like Marco Bustos wants you to dive in so he can just nick it past you and get that yard on you, which is basically what happened. So Tabby dove in, Bustos took it around them. Santos, I think, should have come across a lot quicker to try and cut out the danger, and then Tabby, with the inexperience, I think, and he got the ball, don't get me wrong, he did get the ball, but it's just don't let the referee make that decision, because when you're playing away from home in the Starlight Stadium or wherever it is, the home team are generally going to get the best of those decisions, and I think you kind of give the referee the license to make a call like that when it really shouldn't have got to that in the first place. I think there was just a little catalogue of things that happened, and it was really disappointing because I think that we were, just before that, Pacific were kind of twisting the screw a little bit. Peter Shala had a big block on somebody in the box and things like that, and I think we definitely deserved a draw. I don't think that Pacific played particularly well. As I said, I think that we really contained them well, and it was all set up for a fantastic point on the road, and I think getting a point away at Pacific after the arduous journey that Halifax has to do to get out there would have been a really good result. I think it would have been an even better result than the one we got against York. I think that a point at the champions, considering how far of a journey it is, would have been a fantastic result and well deserved. I think, on the show where I can be kind of critical of Stephen sometimes, and I think in these games, like he generally gets the setup right, and I think it was a really well set up to get the point on the road, but the same frailties are always there, that we just do not create anything going forward. Like I if you look back at the highlights of the game, you can always tell there's a game of very few chances when the highlights are like a cross or the keeper catching the ball or something like that, and the save of the game was actually Oxner doing some punch or something. So it's usually a bad sign of like where a game is, and I just think that we frustrated Pacific quite a lot, and for the most part, like as I said, like I thought Bustos was kept incredibly quiet for the most part. Like it was only like the kind of last little bit when he kind of started coming into the game. So yeah, I really think that it's going to be good for us to get back home. We're back home this Saturday against Edmonton. I definitely think that's going to be kind of a real sign of where we are, because I think playing away from home, Stephen has a set system that he tends to play, because a point away from home is better than nothing, kind of thing. So I think whatever you kind of think is Stephen's way of looking at the game, I get where it comes from. So I think the real test is going to be how we do, and the fact that we're playing Edmonton first at home. I think there's a lot of expectation that we're going to do really well and score some goals, and I think it's a lot of pressure now on the team because this is what we're expecting, and like you've had your 3 games away from home, we're giving you everybody the benefit of the doubt. Almost got a good point against Pacific, but coming up against a lackluster Edmonton team, like they did well like for their 2 home games, but then 4 just blew them away on the weekend, and I think that's a kind of sign of where they are. And I feel like we should be in the same situation playing them at home. And I think that if there's any time for the Wanderers to let loose and score a bunch of goals, it's that game against Edmonton. But I hate being, a lot of people are kind of making fun of me for being like a grumpy old man and all that kind of stuff, and Gary being like Mr. Optimistic. But I think sometimes you kind of have to, at the same time, set your expectations right, because I don't want to be disappointed on the weekend. So I'm really hoping that we get like a big victory, like a 2-0 lead by half time would be nice, that we can kind of enjoy the day, because it's supposed to be a little bit rainy, a little bit kind of shitty, but it's our first time back in the grounds without protocols and all that kind of stuff, so it's going to feel like a proper home game again, and the fact that that Edmonton in town, like on paper probably the worst team in the league, it really bodes well, I hope, for a decent result. But I don't see where the goals are coming from. I just, like, I'm really hoping that Aidan Daniels is back, because a lot is going to rest on him stepping into Joao Morelli's shoes. I don't expect him to go on and score as many goals as Joe, because I don't know if that's his game, but he's definitely a person who can create something, and I definitely think that we need that spark. And I think I just don't think this Lamotte Rampersad JGL thing works very well. I just think that they're basically all trying to play the same position, because that's the positions they play, and they're just tripping over each other, and it's not giving as many outlets going forward. And as I mentioned, I just thought that we were kind of like trying to play long balls an awful lot from the back. I know Peter likes to do his Beckenbauer thing and play like a 50-60 yard ball, which is great, but when you've got Cory Bent and Akeem Garcia, who aren't the tallest people in the world, it's kind of difficult sometimes to kind of play those balls in behind and stuff like that. So, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I really hope that the crowd gets in behind the team, and I like, as we always do. But I really hope that we kind of bring the noise, and we all kind of like make sure that the boys know we're behind them, because it's been tough. Like, I mean, like 3 games away from home, it's not easy. And we saw that like Calvary are struggling too. So it's not easy. But I really think that we need to bring somebody in to replace like Joe, because I don't think that what we have right now is going to be able to score the goals that I think we need to trouble the top teams in this league, because it's kind of boring to watch. And I know, like, we all kind of hope that Gerardo is going to come in and change things around, but it's very difficult when you're not the main man. Like, I mean, how many teams do you think of where you're kind of expecting your assistant coach to be the one to make the changes, or to be the one who dictates the way that we play? Like, this is Stephen's team. Stephen's still the head man. So at the end of the day, like, I don't think anything's gonna, like, we've had, this is season 4 of Stephen Hart football, and I think that we're very expecting fireworks. I don't know if we're gonna get them. So yeah, it's kind of difficult doing this, like, without having somebody to kind of bounce off and tell you whether you're talking shit or not. So I'm not going to do this as a very long podcast, just because I'm on my own and I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, so, which is probably true. In terms of man of the match, I know that Mr. Rampersat made the Gatorade Team of the Week, which is surprising, because I actually think this was, over the 3 games he's played, I think this wasn't the better of the 3 games he played. I think that he, because he didn't, like, I really like him in that 6 role that we kind of talked about before, and he was kind of a 6, and then he was an 8, and then sometimes he was almost like a 10. So it was kind of weird. I think actually, I think Jeremy probably would take my man of the match. I think he had a pretty solid game again, and his passing is incredible. Like, he rarely makes mistakes. I know that I kind of mentioned that he played that ball in behind in the lead up to the goal that got cut out, and it just kind of felt like it was a kind of tired pass, when it probably would have been easier for him just to knock the ball inside to Rampersad, because Rampy was right beside him. But 80 minutes of game, you pretty much played most of the games that we've had already, so just tired legs, tired minds kind of do things like that. But it's definitely going to be interested. I'm looking forward to our happy hour half hour. I don't know how that happens, how you advertise something as a happy hour but it becomes a happy half hour. And I'm also looking forward to seeing the changes that they've made to the grounds. I usually step in behind the patio, but they've kind of put some new wooden structure there too, so it's going to be interesting to see how all that kind of fits in. I like to kind of be behind the goal and see what's happening and things like that. So let me know what you think. Am I full of shit? Am I an idiot? Don't go too hard on me, because it's kind of nerve-wracking doing this stuff on your own, because normally I have a guest or normally I have somebody to bounce off. So I'm just trying to give my thoughts on what was overall, I think, a pretty decent performance away on the road to after probably a 12 or 18 hour trek out there. So and also kudos to Denton for representing us out there by traveling all the way out and wearing his pirate hat the whole way. And also watch out for the latest episode or latest edition of the cookbook, which should be on sale at the grounds. It's Canada's first fanzine in the CPL, and it's a really good read, and Denton puts a lot of time, effort and love into that cookbook, and it's definitely worth picking up when you're at the game on Saturday. So yeah, best of luck. hopefully see you all at the game. Come on, you Wanderers.
Folks, please. Right foot, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out. Out to folks.